Our waking hours is focused far more on the structure. When we're asleep and the conscious mind, so-called, also goes to sleep, that what opens up is the mysterious world of the superconscious. And one of the ways it expresses itself is through dreams. A dream is an experience of the superconscious. The problem is it doesn't work by the rules of structure. So a dream can be complete nonsense, things that, why are you even dreaming that? Or it can be a combination of events that happened today, yesterday, 10 years ago, and then suddenly gets all connected in a very strange way. It's not even a narrative. You'll have characters that don't know each other, but in your dream they'll come together. The first thing is we need to know that don't try to make sense of it. Because if you're trying to take the superconscious and put it into conscious structure, it won't work. What you want to do, if you are indeed analyzing a dream, is want to dissect and say, okay, let me see what elements I can extract and maybe learn something from it. But as I said earlier, it's also critical not to become consumed with it. I know people whose life is not working out and they become desperate, or it's even somewhat of sensationalism. Interpret my dream. People come to me all the time. So I remember my teacher, my mentor, saying to someone, before we interpret dreams, let's first figure out what we do when we're awake. Now, of course, we have dreams. We have dreams in the Bible, Jacob's dream. We have Joseph's dreams, interpretation of dreams. But that's only in addition to a responsible conscious life. If you don't have your conscious life in order, to go to dreams can be a form of escapism. Just like many things, when things are not going well, we escape. So it has to be put into context. On the other hand, dreams do give us a glimpse into that superconscious state, and it has, as I said, sometimes you'll never figure it out, sometimes you could get something. There have been times, I know from my own experience, I had a very intense question, I went to sleep with it, and during the night, during the dream, something came to me. And you wake up and say, I got it. Now, it's not necessarily in a very structured way, as I said. It's like it can be completely enmeshed in a million other things that are going on. But some glimpse, something came from a deeper place. And in truth, the Talmud also says an interesting thing, that a person dreams at night about what they think by day. So if you focus on something by day, it's likely it'll appear in the dream. It's not always the case. Because it's interesting, dreams will sometimes focus on something that you really matter to you, not necessarily you thought about it by day. I remember thinking about this once, something I really was concerned about during the day, and by night I never dreamt about it. I dreamt about something else. And then I realized that something else has significance. But it's a complicated process, and there's really no formula. We need to know that it is a glimpse into that reality, and that's one of the reasons we're given dreams, is to realize that there's more to life than what meets the eye. There's more to life than the structured conscious mind that we have and feelings. And it's a gift to know there's another reality. Whether we can understand that reality or not is another discussion, is another issue. But the fact that there is something that makes you tick. Now, it makes total sense. We all know that. When people, for example, have an anger streak or other virtues or vices in their personality, they're most often, I'm not talking about superficial things, they're most often coming from a deeper, superconscious place, whether we know it or not. So you don't need a dream to recognize that, like anything, has a behind the scenes, what's going on under the dashboard, as I said, behind the curtain. But a dream is an actual glimpse into that. So I would like to say that a dream is also an humbling experience, because it humbles you into realizing that what you know about life and what you know about your own structure of life and the patterns and routines, the things you depend upon, is only the tip of the iceberg. And that's a good analogy here, the tip of the iceberg. It's what you're aware of. It's not what you're not aware of. It's not the superconscious. And I should add, in the Kabbalistic writings, they talk about 2 levels of superconscious, which the truth is there are many more, infinite levels, just like you speak about microscopic or subatomic particles. So the sub, and the sub. Who knows how far down the rabbit hole it goes. So the same thing in the superconscious. There's the superconscious, the superconscious. So superconscious, I talked before about active and inactive consciousness. There's also, in a sense, an active superconscious and a completely fundamentally concealed superconscious. What do I mean by saying that? There are things in the superconscious that are beyond consciousness, but they're not completely off limits, which means you will get a glimpse. They will emerge. They may take effort. With effort and with a certain commitment, you're able to draw from there. That's why a person who really struggles and exerts themselves can open up the channels of the faucet, and more flow of ideas will flow in from the superconscious. But then there's a level of superconscious that really remains beyond conscious altogether. And that's the way it should be. Now, of course, there's a desire, a temptation to want to taste it, but it's like the very fact, as soon as you become aware of it, it's no longer there. Like mercury. That is why when Moses asked God, show me your face, show me your glory. And God says, you cannot see my face and live. But I will show you my back. I will show you a dimension that you could contain. But the dimension that's beyond, the only way you can experience it is by not looking. So it doesn't mean you don't experience it, but you have to get yourself out of the way, because I want to own, like conscious mind, I understand something. The superconscious is really, there's no I. And that's really the purpose. That's why I called it humbling. It teaches us humility, that it's not just about you. So let's talk a moment about intelligence in that way. Most people see the mind as being our most powerful asset. I understand things. I'm able to process, evaluate, and come away with some conclusions. Maybe I can build a business and make money. I can innovate. That's what the mind is. And it's a very powerful tool, a very, very powerful tool. However, there's something else about intelligence that many of us don't focus on. It's not an end in itself. Intelligence is here to help us reveal a higher truth. Keep that in mind. It's not just you're a smart guy or smart woman and you're able to innovate, and then whatever the benefits you get from that. Or you just are able to see things more than others because of your intelligence. But it's about experiencing a higher truth. So in a way you can say, I understand something, or the idea is understood. Is the idea capturing me, or am I capturing the idea? Do I own the idea, or does the idea own me? So there's one level where I understand, and then there's another level where you get lifted and absorbed into understanding. There's an expression by the prophet Isaiah. He says that in the future it will be a world filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. Think about it. The waters cover the sea. Knowledge is compared to water, but you can have water on land. That's like conscious intelligence. When the waters cover the sea means the waters are dominant and the seabed is not seen. In other words, knowledge has absorbed you and you have become part of a higher knowledge, a higher reality. And that's where the individual ego, and I don't mean ego necessarily in a negative way, the individual identity becomes absorbed and completely consumed with something greater than yourself. Think of staring at a natural wonder, beautiful piece of art, listening to exquisite music. What happens? You sometimes get so absorbed in it. You're reading a book, you don't even realize you're turning pages. You've lost yourself in experience, in a good way. It's one of the most gratifying experiences. And then when you come out of it, you suddenly realize that was magic. Being in the zone, where the object and the subject converge and melt into one. The deepest experiences of love, of intimacy, of truth is when you become one with it. In other words, it's a state of being, not just an act. It's a noun, not just a verb. So love can be a verb. Sometimes they say, I'm not sure who coined it, but I use this a lot. Love for men is often an action, and for a woman, it's a state of being. The highest level of experience is when it becomes a noun. You become one with it. Not just you're experiencing it. So let's say you're looking at the Niagara Falls, or you're looking at something beautiful. So you can be like a journalist, looking at it and saying, wow, that's great, and saying, and at the same time observing yourself experiencing this. Or you can become so absorbed you don't even notice. You can't even talk about it. You can't even document it. Because you have lost your own individual identity in the experience. That is what the superconscious is ultimately like. So dreams, in that sense, are a bridge that help us, a glimpse into there. And when we work on it, and real work, not just the dream and dream interpretation, we actually can expand our conscious channels, our conscious faucets and structures to be able to allow in deeper states of superconsciousness. But to do that effectively, you can't just go there with the same identity as you are on the conscious level, because on the conscious level, everything is, as I said, compartmentalized. To enter that place, you need to really lose yourself, like surrender into the experience. Now, surrender, many people don't like the word, it sounds like weakness, but here I mean surrender in the beautiful way, where you essentially suspend your own self in order to experiencing something greater than yourself. That's truly when the mind is at its best. So yes, there's an intelligent part of the mind that understands, it analyzes, it evaluates, it reflects, it connects ideas, it innovates. But then there's the higher level of intelligence, which is where you're seeking a higher truth. And indeed, when you allow that channel to open up, the bridge between the conscious and the superconscious, you will innovate better and you will understand better. Because it's not understanding alone, it's experiencing, it's drawing down, channeling a higher reality, a higher truth. And that's how the Kabbalists explain the relationship between, they call wisdom, chachma, and chachmas tema, the hidden wisdom, the conscious and the superconscious. And indeed, the super-conscious as well, which does not manifest in a conscious way, but it's still at work. It's just not working on our terms. So in a way you can say the conscious is on our terms, it's compartmentalized, it's structured, I understand it. The superconscious is you're letting go and experiencing something beyond yourself, and the supra is completely on terms of the truth itself. Complete truth itself, middle level is where you are suspending yourself, allowing yourself to be absorbed in the truth, and you want to draw all that down into the consciousness. Now in the Kabbalistic and the Hasidic writings, there's a lot of discussion on this, because ultimately this is how we grow. This is how we become great people. This is how we achieve excellence. But as you see, it's a journey, and dreams are one part of it. They're giving us a glimpse. It's like giving you a peek, a sneak peek into a world that's beyond our regular structures. And sometimes we could find some meaning in it and interpret it, and many times we can't. But that's fine. Even if you can't, it's also a peek. And maybe it's just the humbling fact that there's another reality that you don't understand. Nothing wrong with that. It's like standing on a mountain where you're no longer on a plateau or in a valley, and you see a vast horizon beyond your scope. You look into the sky, into the heavens, solar systems, beyond solar systems. Richard Feynman, the physicist, spoke about the vastness. That vastness itself is a humbling experience. It means there's a reality greater than ourselves. He came to the conclusion that he was wondering why, is there a God? Why would God create so much empty space, or empty so much space that nobody's using? But the mere fact that it exists in such an enormous, infinite way, an infinite expanding universe, that alone tells us that the higher reality, the higher truths are beyond us. And that opens us up to experiencing that. So not everything has to be contained and understood. Sometimes the mystique of something is precisely what you need. And it's the greatest blessing. You try to understand as much as you can, and then you open yourself up and surrender and allow yourself to be absorbed in something beyond you. When you hear a beautiful piece of music, that's what happens. You don't need to evaluate it and dissect it. In many ways, you compromise its very integrity, its purity, when you start doing that. Mystique is something great to embrace. And dreams, the mystique of dreams, open us up to that reality, as do other experiences that open up the door, the hidden door. William Blake said, as the doors of perception are cleansed, when the doors of perception are cleansed, you see everything the way it is. Oneness, infinite oneness. So that is really a mystical concept that goes back into the ideas we're talking about. But we don't just want the infinite oneness, we want the infinite oneness channeled into the finite structures of our existence.